everyone. Welcome to Parenting Trap. We are talking about siblings today, how to deal with a new one.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I thought this would be a fun subject for us just to talk about and see where it goes.
Both of us have two kids. Mine are a little bit older, 6 and almost 8 now. And Barbara, you've just recently gone through this.
Yes. So I have an 9-month-old and just over 2-year-old. So, we're still in that new sibling phase for sure. And I thought this would be helpful for any parents that maybe just recently had a kid, maybe any parents who are thinking about having another kid and wondering how their child, I think I've seen this before where parents will have their child around another person's infant and they're extra curious about how their kid's interacting with the infant because they think that in some way it's going to represent the way that their child thinks about the new child in their life. But,
Yes.
Obviously that's going to be a very different scenario.
Very different. Yes. It's different for everyone in the whole family. Having another kid is the most amazing thing. I just saw Dave Smith announced on Twitter that his wife is pregnant with their second.
Oh, that's great.
I know. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just
Cool.
remembered that in the episode.
Congratulations
Yes.
to,
Dave Smith.
Dave Smith, if he's listening to our podcast, that'd be awesome. Anyway, that's awesome. I mean,
Yes.
what a wonderful gift.
It is so cool. Growing your family is the most amazing experience.
Yeah.
It is super hard. But a lot of times going through those really hard things is the most rewarding.
Yeah. Yes. And there's so much more love. I think that's, you always told me that. I was like, oh gosh, how am I going to take care of 2 children? Oh no. And oh my gosh, well, I love my first kid so much and what's going to happen? And it's like, well, it's just more love. There's more love. It's not like you have a limited amount of love that you have to divide up between your children.
That is so true. Love is not a pie that you take pieces of and then you have less of. The more people in your life, not just kids, I think in general, friends, family, everyone, kids, the more people you have in your life to love, the more love you have to give. Yeah. It's one of those things that the more you have, the more infinite it grows. We do have limited time though, and that's where it gets tricky. So, time and resources, but the love aspect is awesome. It just explodes. It multiplies.
Oh, and it is. It's so wonderful.
Yes.
So that being said, though, it is really
it is the hardest thing. It is so hard to have another kid.
Yes, it is. So, and there's so many things going on when you have a new kid. There's the parents, and the new stresses and the new responsibilities. And then there's siblings. So I kind of wanted to focus on siblings here and how to navigate this challenging sibling behaviors, because it's really life altering. It's life altering for us adults, and we get to choose to bring another child into this life. Typically, we're the ones deciding to have another infant, and
we have a better idea of what that means.
Yes, we know.
If you tell a kid, "Oh, you're going to get a brother or sister," then they might be thinking, oh, this is like a friend that might come over sometimes.
Right.
They don't realize how much that infant is going to need the parent's attention, and then how different their life is going to be. Because when you have one kid, like when I had just Jamie, just my oldest, I mean, I would respond like that. If he made a noise, I would respond like that. And then I used to joke because my youngest would go from 0 to 60 like that. He would be fine and then just scream if he needed help. And I remember thinking, oh, I think it's because the volume in the house was just so much louder. There was more going on because I had a toddler when I had my baby, that when Jamie was around, I could respond very quickly and easily. When Robin was around, I didn't always hear it. So he learned he had to be loud. He's very loud.
Yeah.
Some of it might be personality.
Yeah.
But some of it, I think, is second kid syndrome.
Responding to the environment a little bit to make sure that they're being heard. So I love this. That's so wonderful. I really kind of love having this new challenge, and I'm learning so much about myself and my children, and having now now a 9-month-old. So
Yes.
The second child. And I think we need to remember from our child's perspective what's going on. So like you said, they can't, if you tell them they're going to be having a new sibling, they don't know what that means. They can't know what that means. Right. Even if they've been around infants before, these are infants, even if you have, let's say, a cousin, exactly. Like they have a cousin that's a young infant, or they still aren't demanding time from the parent the way that a new infant does. And it's not demanding the same, they don't go home at the end of the day, even if it's a vacation and they're spending the night for a few nights. Eventually that child has undivided attention with you primarily as the parent or parents until a new sibling comes into the picture. And I love the analogy. This is an analogy that I think they even talk about it in Siblings Without Rivalry.
Okay.
Trying to remember the book. I'm going to look back to confirm that. But it's the analogy, I know you've heard it too, that bringing a new sibling in to your home is similar to if your partner brought in a new partner.
Yes.
So let's say if I walk in one day and my husband brought home a new wife and said, here's our new wife. And she's going to use your kitchen. They're going to need access to your bathroom. Also, I'm going to spend some time with them.
Share all your clothes and toys.
Yeah, and toys. Yep, exactly. And you might be thinking, well, that's just crazy because that's just not the way life works. And it's like, well, if your family may not be the kind of family that brings home a new wife by any means, but for your child, what's going on for them is similar to that. So you got to remember, it kind of sounds extreme, but it's not, because what's happening in their life is where they had all of your attention and basically everything they didn't have any undivided attention from you, or they might have had an undivided attention, but they never felt threatened that their love from you was potentially getting taken away or shifted to another person.
Right.
So, and that's what we would fear if, let's say, our partners brought home another partner. You might think,
this person's going
to replace me.
Yeah.
Like this person, my partner is going to love them more. My partner is going to spend more time with them, and I'm going to get rejected, and I'm going to be left alone. So your child's worried about the same thing. They're worried that they're being replaced, and they're worried that you no longer love them.
Yes.
So, and it sounds, yes, extreme, but this is what's going on in their heads.
Yes.
So it's very important to make sure you maintain and continue to nurture the relationship you have with your first child.
Yes.
And I think a lot of new parents get frustrated because it's this very delicate being in your home. Newborns are very, very delicate. They require tons of care. And we want, we would love for our children to just go with open arms and love this new creature, new little human being in our home. And some do. Some will take to it pretty well. There will probably still be tons of challenging behaviors, but some will maybe lash out and get very, very frustrated and challenging.
And most will feel, I would say almost all, it would be weird if it didn't, would feel various forms of jealousy. And jealousy, that's totally normal and healthy. I think it's important to label that when you think your child is feeling that way, like they're acting out, like they try and hit the baby or take something for the baby or do something that would maybe be out of character and it looks like it was out of frustration. You can say, are you feeling jealous? And you can explain what that means. And that will give them the words for their feeling and help them realize that that's not wrong. That's not weird. That's normal.
Yes. I think sometimes we feel, I wonder if some parents don't feel hesitant to use terms like jealous and mad. And we have episodes about the importance of helping your child label their emotions, and we'll continue to dig into that. But I sometimes wonder if parents don't feel worried that giving them those words is going to make them feel those things.
Right. Like if they don't have the words, then they might not feel it.
Yes.
Yes. And also you have to be careful of giving them words for something they're not feeling and maybe implanting that idea, right? So we don't want to implant ideas in our children's heads. The problem with that is, though, that they probably are feeling that. It's a human emotion. We all feel it. And so you're leaving them at a disadvantage. They're not able to fully be self-aware. They're not able to learn to become self-aware when they are feeling that. And then they're not able to process it in a healthy way. Yeah. So pretending like it doesn't exist or trying to shame it out of them, I don't think is the right thing to do. Allowing them to express that emotion and even say very shocking things like, I hate the baby, or I want to kill the baby, or things like that. Yeah. I think those are normal too. I know they're very shocking to hear. We don't want to hear it. I would recommend that you not respond like reflexively and say like, you don't believe that. Don't say that. Because that only makes them feel like their feelings are not validated. That now they're weird for feeling that. They need to bottle that up. They're not. That's like an unmentionable thing. I never want to give my kids the impression that some feeling they have or some thought they have should never be said. I want them to always feel safe to come to me and talk to me. And that starts with these uncomfortable things. Yes. Right.
And usually when you have a kid that says something like, I hate the baby, or I want the baby to go back, or I want them dead, we're big on, of course, reframing and understanding what they really mean is probably, I am angry and I'm feeling like I'm not getting enough attention from my parents, and this thing is taking too much attention away from me, and it's really hard, and I'm very upset about it. And they can't verbalize all that.
They can't.
But that's what they're trying to say. So if you react frustrated or angry or shaming them, they might feel bad for all those feelings, but they're not going to understand why they're having those feelings. So you need to work on identifying them, helping your child identify them, and working through them. Yes. So with your child and making them feel okay and give them healthy outlets to maybe, like if they're feeling really aggressive and trying to hit the baby, you can give them pillows to hit, but you can keep your baby safe, and they're allowed to feel upset. They're allowed to have the feelings they have about the situation.
Yes. And when we get these conversations with them, it's let them vent. They don't have anyone to vent to. So you can ask them questions, and listen to what they say, and then do the reflective listening that we talked about in one of our other episodes. So if they say, well, I don't like it that you never read to me anymore after lunch, because maybe that's when you have to put the baby down. And it's like, oh yeah, you miss reading. I miss that too. And you can say that. Mm-hmm. Don't try and fix it right away, because I wouldn't try and fix it right away. I would really listen, and let the child express everything they want to express, and just tell them that you love them and you're there for them. When you are ready to try and come up with a solution, you can work on a solution together. A big one, though, a big piece for me was recognizing how I spoke to my toddler versus my baby. So I tell new moms this all the time. I say, once you have your baby, really pay attention to the words and the tone that are coming out of your mouth. Because I realized after having my second, there was this little baby that would get this attention like, oh, he's so cute, right? And then my 2-year-old, he wasn't even 2 at the time. I mean, they're 21 months apart, so he was just shy of 2. He would do something that would make a loud noise or make a mess or something. And I'd be like, Jamie, stop. Right. And so at the end of the day, I realized his outbursts were increasing. And I would think back and I would think, well, all day I've been talking to him like he's annoying me. And then I was talking to the baby like, the baby could do no wrong. So if you're noticing that discrepancy, check yourself. Obviously, don't talk to the baby annoyed. I would say change the way you talk to your toddler. Find moments where you can connect. Make sure they know that you love them, and follow through with those respectful limits in a loving, empathetic way. But yeah, watch the way you talk. The other big thing
Absolutely.
is when I noticed that my baby was crying and needed my help all the time. And then sometimes Jamie would need help. And I was often telling Jamie, hold on, wait, I'll help you. I'm helping the baby. I'll help you later. Just wait a minute. But then I never said that to the baby because it was a newborn. He was a newborn and I didn't think he could understand me yet. Now, I didn't read about this philosophy until he was a little bit older. So now I would say always talk to them like they can understand you, and they really can very early on, but I didn't know that then. And what I realized is when you are almost 2 and you're hearing, wait, I always have to help the baby. He's not seeing all the times the baby actually has to wait. And I had to help him because there were times when the situations were reversed. So I actually would say out loud when the baby has to wait in the same way that you tell your older child. So when Jamie needed my help and Robin was crying, I would say, I hear you, Robin. I can't help you right now. I need to help Jamie, but I'll help you when I'm done with helping Jamie. And then I would help Jamie. So, and it was really for Jamie's benefit to know that they were both getting my attention and they both had to wait. They don't see that unless you say it out loud. They're not going to see that.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And I absolutely do that too. And I do think it changes the dynamic. It allows both kids to realize that they are both your priority. There are moments that you are asking and I think especially with new babies, they require so much of us. Asking a 2-year-old to wait constantly it's really hard for them.
Yeah.
Or 3-year-old or 4-year-old, it's really hard for them, especially if they were an only child prior. They probably weren't used to waiting so long for the sandwich because you needed to change another child's diaper or nurse or whatever it might be. So they are waiting way more than they ever were. And you're right. They don't realize that it's going on both sides. And you know what? I'd even go so far as to say plenty of times you might not actually be asking your infant to wait because it's so hard to hear such a young infant be upset. So you may actually even stop doing what you're doing with the 2-year-old and interrupt it pretty regularly to help out an infant and not think, actually, they're in a safe place. They are starting to get a little bit fussy, but I'm just a minute away from finishing this book. I'm going to finish the last page. And you can say, I'll be with you in just a minute. And to the infant and finish up, I'm helping, Heron right now or Jamie right now with your kids. And they get to see that they are a priority too.
Yes.
And make a point to do that because it's very easy just to not even ever do that, to constantly be going over to the baby and prioritizing them. But like we said, kind of at the beginning, it's really important to make sure you maintain your relationship with your first child because their world has just gotten tossed completely upside down. And it is very hard for them. And in time, I think, it might not happen right away and it might take years and years and years for their relationship to develop. But if you don't force them to be affectionate to one another, if you don't force them to, constantly remind them that they do love each other or make them feel guilty for having these kind of adversarial feelings towards their siblings, then in time, the relationship usually develops and they find their own space in life together in a family. And it's really, if you just constantly shame them into feeling bad, that's going to cause more sibling rivalry, I believe.
Yes, it can cause more sibling rivalry. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it is tricky with such a new young being. It's hard for us to imagine anyone hating a baby. For me, I mean, it's nearly impossible for me to imagine. But of course, that's from my adult, 35-year-old brain here that now loves babies. And my 2-year-old feels very differently about babies because they cry and they're kind of annoying and they take my time. They take time away from my parents, and they're constantly taking my things, and everything for them from their perspective. Babies are really annoying, and that's okay. They can have those feelings. I don't think they're going to grow up to be adults and necessarily feel that way their whole life. It's just now, and that relationship will develop in time.
Yes,
usually.
I think so. My kids are very close right now. Like, they play so well together. They do fight. All siblings do, but I don't think they fight more than, like, I think they don't fight very much for siblings. I don't know. What would you say?
Your kids are amazing. Yeah, they are very, very sweet. They get along very well. And I am noticing in your oldest right now, I think, wanting to have a little bit more independence from the youngest.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised it took this long, because I feel like that's very common for kids to want privacy from their siblings and want relationships with people outside of their siblings. And if you're always forced to play with your sibling, then that can get tricky. And that's okay too. I think it's fine to want to play with other children, but your kids, it took a long time. They've always played together really well. And now I'm noticing your youngest definitely wants to play with oldest all the time. Robin always wants to be around Jamie. I mean, there's nothing he wants to do besides play with him all day long and be included. But the oldest wants his own friendships and relationships. And it took almost 8 years. That's pretty wild. Yeah. So, your kids are amazing though. They're very sweet. Yeah. They also are very sweet. Too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. They're also super sweet to my children. And I remember when I had Heron, my oldest, Robin was always the baby of the family because he's the youngest, and he was, he was 3.5 when I had Heron. So I remember you guys came to the hospital and visited, and your oldest, Jamie, wanted to hold Heron and just love
Heron.
Oh, from day one was just it was so sweet. And then Robin was like, yeah, baby. And
Robin wanted nothing to do with him. Robin was like, what is this?
The second he saw Heron and he walked over, and you're like, do you want to hold Heron? He was like, and kind of unsure. He was like, okay. And then he was like looking at Heron. He was like, no.
Yep.
No.
He was done.
Tried to pass him back off, and would say things like, I don't like baby Heron.
Oh yeah.
I don't like baby Heron. This is cousins, right? I mean, it rocked his world to have a cousin. Mm-hmm. This isn't even an infant that's entering your home. Mm-hmm. And it's not your infant.
Yep.
So I thought that was really interesting that,
he definitely experienced jealousy. Mm-hmm. But then after a while, he's like so sweet and loving with Heron. He's always wanting to like give Heron things and like protect him. And it's really, really, really sweet to see.
It is. Yeah. And nothing was forced there. It was just a developing relationship. It was beautiful.
Yep.
Really awesome. So navigating a new infant in the home is very challenging, but it's very exciting. And I urge parents just to think about what's going on for your kid from your kid's perspective, because it is a big deal. It's a very big deal. And I understand, having just recently gone through it, you're exhausted. You have less time. You are tired all the time. You're not sleeping. You're getting up every couple hours to help child feed, and it's hard. And then you have another child that's demanding, your oldest one, and you just want to rest, I recommend trying to get some help, find relatives. Everyone loves holding a new baby. People love being with new babies. And if you have people in your life that can help you out, that's great. Let them spend time with the new baby. Keep your relationship with your oldest as much as possible. I guess the other siblings, maybe you have multiples, but spend time with those other children, with your older kids, and make sure you give them reassurance that they are loved and that nothing is going to, you don't necessarily need to say it. You show it in your actions. Nothing will ever challenge your love for that child. And I think you'll weather through it and everyone will be better off for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That's exciting.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
That's it.
Like, subscribe, and send any questions to questions@parentingtrap.com, and we'll check in with you guys later.
Thanks.